Bill Henshaw here again, your local constitutional kook. More in the way of current events issues, and this one involves the critical race theory, to which I say, cut the crap. Just who knows where to start with stuff like this. But if you're going to teach American history, you teach it the way it was, and as I've said repeatedly on my videos, you look at the members of the sovereign body politic of this nation and republic who ordained and established this Constitution to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Free, white, male, 21, nothing hard about it. And no, the case of Scott v. Sanford, otherwise known as that infamous Dred Scott case, was not reversed, quote unquote, by the 14th Amendment and couldn't have been, since the Supreme Court put that amendment out of commission contemporaneously before it ever got proposed. Forget about it. The big deal here, and the very big deal, is that the New York banksters in particular don't want people to know the history of this country and the fact that members of the sovereign body politic have the relationship to government of principal and agent. We have creator endowed inalienable rights, and we tell them what to do, not the other way around. And that they can't get by with any legislation whatsoever. They'd have to get an amendment to the Constitution, which is very difficult to do under Article 5, especially if it involves conventions of the people in the states, as should have occurred with the 14th Amendment. Now, the good news here for everyone else that's here is if we get back to that situation, now you have rights. You may not share in the political sovereignty, and for the moment, that's the way it is. That would have to be done with an amendment done consistent with the Constitution, not in contravention of it, taking no position on that article for the moment. I would say this that the proponents of adding to the sovereign body politic are going to have the burden of proof to make any changes, which is the case anytime you want to make a change, you have to go in there and show why it should be done. Now, just a couple of simple thoughts here, especially with Asian nations, and you get people like me who who you think we would even consider going to Beijing and becoming an American Chinese or Pyongyang and becoming an American North Korean. It's ludicrous on its face. I mean, my God, China's been here 4,000 years. America, you can argue 500 years, but really it's more like half that since the American Revolution. In what nation would you rather live and why? Think about it. So, this is the kind of thing that we have to get back to and get our government back to where we have localized control of it and can keep it from doing all the bullshit they're doing these days, especially in my former hometown of Washington, D.C. So, you teach American history as it is, and you get to the real parts of it, which I didn't get 50 years ago, and none of you almost certainly have heard anything about it in the intervening time period. And it goes back further than that. I don't even think my dear beloved mom got a good education in this area back in the 1930s when she was in school. I mean, they just wiped out everything. And by the way, a benchmark for me personally, for what it may be worth, is that I don't regard any history books seriously that were written after about 1930. That's when the fix really came in with that stupid ass FDR getting in there with the New Deal, which they didn't bother to tell us was a deck full of 54 jokers. So ever since, the text was just absolutely absent of any meaningful dialogue, especially about the war between the states and Reconstruction. And I'm telling you, if I had seen or heard one veto speech of President Andrew Johnson, our greatest president, the Reconstruction Act of 1867, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, to name a couple, if I'd have heard those in high school, my life would have been different there and then. It's just the way it is. He got it. He tried to fight for the American people. And this is typical, by the way, the Langley BS black is white there with the CIA. Because if they think that Johnson was the greatest president, they're talking about landslide Lyndon, not Andrew Johnson, who clearly, I mean, there's no one in my view even close. And I know a pretty fair amount about 230 years of American history. So that said, if we had learned the truth, um, And yes, I am from the Dunning School of Reconstruction, no question about it. William Archibald Dunning, even in his area, which was well within living memory of these events, it seems to me that there were certain things that he either didn't say or wasn't permitted to say. But his books are well worth reading, and his articles, I recommend all of them. You can probably Google them most these days. They're out of print now, so out of patent. And by the way, send me the email for information about what I have to offer you, which is a hell of a lot, some of which comes from Dunning. But email me, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, about my constitutional defense document packets, and I will send you the information on materials I have, which is stunning. The total packet is over 800 pages, and you hit them with this in the trial court, quote unquote, like I've done in my Oakland case that I helped handle locally here, and my personal South Carolina case that we got all these documents in there. And after a 2-month journey across the country in 4 unmarked federal military aircraft, I stunned the courtroom into silence in the first 30 seconds. Now, you don't have to be as good as I am to do that, by the way. The ignorance is so colossal on the other side, and this is the cradle of states' rights. It's so colossal, it's hard to know where to start. But once you know what the real issues are, how to present them, and get them in front of the local dumbass who has the sworn duty to sustain at least the jurisdiction on the burden of proof on jurisdiction and venue of the trial courts, now you begin to set an unopposed record that we can come back with later and bite them in the ass. And that's another thing you'll learn more about. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and I'll get the information on what I have, modestly priced document packets. I mean, it's amazing. It's a whole new world out there if you just got taught about it when you were in school. It doesn't happen anymore. That's my raison d'etre, the cause for my existence. I'm 15 years all in, 5 decades of intense, passionate, independent study of the Constitution, history, and laws of the United States. It's not what you've been misled to believe it is, especially with this critical race theory crap. Quit it already. It is what it is, and you're much better off, all of you, whether you're Asians, Africans, whatever, much better off in the original system that we had with local government of defined and limited powers, and mostly operated on the county level, not in the state capital, certainly not in Washington, D.C. If we get back to that, it won't be perfect, but we can then make changes if we wish, consistent with the Constitution, not in contravention of it. It's about damn time that starts happening. And just something for you to think about with all these states, California included, quote unquote states, seeming to want to pass bills to allow reparations for slavery. Give me a fucking break. There hasn't been a slave here in the sense that they're talking about for arguably 150 years. So if you're going to do that, why not pick up the phone, call them in Cairo, Egypt, and have the legislature there pass laws to allow the Jews to come in there and get reparations for slavery going back 2,000 years? It makes just about as much sense. By the way, along this line, if they're really going to do that, and they may get a amicus curiae brief from me, friend of the court and the legislature, if you're going to do that, given the fact that we're all slaves now, but in a much more dastardly way than was ever done 150 years ago, then all of us, regardless of race, genders, whatever, should be entitled to reparations and ongoing benefits, quote unquote. The system is still the same as it was then. It just operates a bit differently and far more effectively now than it ever did in the states south of the Mason-Dixon line. That's something to think about. By the way, more information, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. On my materials that are available, constitutional defense document packets, I'll get the information to you. In the meantime, subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we work together, the faster we get these bastards off our back. Thank you.